Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hammer and Nail Show. We're doing a little bit early this week. This is going to be episode 31, I believe. I, we've been doing it
I don't know. I can't hold you accountable because I have no clue.
and need to figure that out myself. But how you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing fantastic. It is the eve of Thanksgiving, which means I get to adjust the belt one notch further because I'm going to eat a ton of food tomorrow, and I can't wait for it.
There you go. That's right. That's the best part about this. One of the best parts about it. One of my favorite parts. Thanksgiving is actually my favorite of all the holidays. I just getting together with everybody, big feast. I love Christmas as well, but Christmas time you start getting into the whole present thing, and sometimes that can be a little more nerve wracking than it needs to be. But with Thanksgiving, it's
Yeah.
just about getting together with your family, your friends, having a good time, and talking about all the good things that have happened over the last year. So, uh,
Yeah,
looking
I'm
forward to
with
it.
you. And football's on. Football's on. That's always good too.
that's right, especially now with the what is it, the three games you can start at. At least out here on the West Coast, you can start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you want to have football on until everybody leaves. You don't have to even worry about it if you don't want to. So it's perfect. As long as the 49ers aren't playing on Thanksgiving night, it's usually it can make it a nice, easy day of football.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you're stressed out all day, wondering if they're going to win.
Exactly, exactly. Especially the couple of times that it's happened in my lifetime on Thursday nights. You got to wait through all throughout the day, and then you got that turkey in your gut while you watch the game. But big couple of weeks here. We couple weeks ago, you and I were on here talking about a team that was 3-5 and pretty much getting ready to maybe hang it up. And now 2 weeks later, they're at 5-5, and everything seems to kind of have turned around a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. 2 weeks ago, it was a whole different vibe to this show, right? We're talking about they're going to go to this Rams game. I I don't remember what your prediction was, but I said that they were going to get smacked. So I figured season over. Jacksonville, I'm going to see Trey Lance live and in person. I can't wait for it. And then boom, they absolutely turned it around. They beat a team in the Rams that most didn't think would happen. Not only did they beat them, nobody picked them to blow them out. They did just that. And then they really took care of business in what could have been a trap game or a letdown game, however you want to word that. And they did what good teams usually do, and that's win big against bad teams. And, so now the question is who the hell are they?
Exactly, the 100%, and that's definitely we looked at it. The Rams game, neither one of us thought they were going to win that. I think we both thought they were going to have a chance against, they'd win this game. It was great to see them get a big win against a team that they should beat, and really not just beat them, but really beat them up throughout the whole game. I mean, they pretty much destroyed Jacksonville. That game was over before Jacksonville offense even had their fifth snap of the game. That's how badly they beat them up. So a really good game, but you kind of led us right into that. This first question that we have for tonight. Before we get here, real quick though, we have some folks over in the comment section that I want to just bring up real quick. Harold says hello, everybody. Harold's always with us, so I just want to say shout out to Harold. We also have our buddy from Wales. He's thankful for a 500 record, and then Luke. He's says hello, Jack and Nayls. He's a great commenter as well. Always
Bring
checking out our
up
shows.
Gino's comment. Bring up Gino's comment.
Yeah, I'm going to get there really quick, but I'm going to hit Waruna first because he says that his Thanksgiving's already ruined because he has to watch the Bears and the Lions. The Bears, the Lions are on here every week, but
yeah.
And then Gino says Nayls is a big fan. Just a couple weeks ago, he insisted Kyle gets fired. Such a bandwagon fan, Mr. Nayls.
Thank you for that. Hey, so here's the deal. I want to clear some things up. One, I never insisted that he does get fired. In fact, I wrote an article saying he does not get fired. It is my opinion that he should get fired and or be on the hot seat. I'm not backing away from that stance. If the 49ers make the playoffs or Trey Lance gets a lot of playing time, either one of those scenarios, I will give him an out and say that he deserves more time. But if neither of those scenarios play out, I am not going to back away from anything. This team still is 500. We'll talk about the expectations for the rest of the season, but I want to be clear about that. And the other thing is this. I've also written an article many, many months ago talking about fandom. And these are things that a lot of people will say, hey, you're a fake fan, go root for different teams, what have you. And for me, the only job I have as a fan is to root for the team to win on Sunday. That's it. What happens when they're not playing, my thoughts, my opinions, I'm entitled to those. You're entitled to yours. Jack's entitled to his. But once that game starts and that whistle blows, my job as a fan, regardless of who's playing, is to root for those guys on the field. And I do that every Sunday just as hard as anybody else. So appreciate the opinion. I'm not a fake fan.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things about the 49ers have built up the whole 49er faithful. So they've got folks really wrapped up around that whole thing, but it is what it is. Thanks for clearing that up there, Jesse. And let's get to our question. Would the real 49ers please stand up? Who are these guys in your opinion, really?
Gosh, Jack, it's I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, right? But I really feel like what we've seen the last 2 weeks is what I expected this team to be going into the season. And that's what makes it more frustrating is they have not been anything close to this team up until these last 2 weeks. And in fact, I said this team would be 12-5. And before the season started, I said that Green Bay would be the easiest game within the first 5 weeks because they would run for 300 yards on them. Now, that was before Mostert got injured and what have you. But that was my thought. I figured this team would be a bully type team. They would run the ball at will on anybody. It would be something that they stuck to. They would have that mentality that we're coming out to get 30 carries a game no matter what. And that was my expectation for this team. And then I saw something completely different play out. I saw no continuity. I saw no discipline. I saw erratic play calling and erratic gameplay. And so for me, it's very frustrating that it's taken this long for them to find their identity, which I think most of us thought this was their identity the whole time or should have been their identity. So the fact that they're just now figuring it out is a little frustrating, but it's encouraging that they found it just in the nick of time and they have a chance to make a run here. I feel like what we've seen the last 2 weeks, again, I can't say that they are going to blow every team out. That's not it. But their identity and what they've shown, that is the real 49ers.
Yeah, I like that part of your answer. I think this is a really tough question to answer because I think what we've seen all year long, the 5-5 team is who they are. That's part of what we've seen these last 2 weeks is we've seen a team finally kind of put it all together, but they've just shot themselves in the foot so much early on, in really weeks 3 through whatever it was that during that losing streak where they got to 2-4, they were just shooting themselves in the foot so much during that period of time. And they did it again against Arizona. I think this is a team that has the capacity to be very good. They have that type of potential. We talk about that a lot with the quarterback situation, right? Trey Lance has the potential to be a really good quarterback, but he's not going to be a really good quarterback unless he puts it all together. And the 49ers had the potential from the very beginning of the season to be a real good team. It was just a matter of them putting it all together. And I think the last couple of weeks, we finally seen them start to do that. And it's really going to be dependent on their ability to continue doing the same things that they've been doing. They've got to be able to run the ball because running the ball gets their defense off the field. I think their defense is kind of the weak link on this team. They've played, but the defense has played better, but the defense has been kind of they were not playing very well up until the Rams game. The Rams game was a good win for them. Last week going up against, they weren't even on the field for the first quarter barely. So I think the offense needs to keep the defense off the field, especially in a week like this. And if they can get to 6-5, I think we see them get to 7-5, and then they're really going to be rolling. So I'm going to say I think they're a little bit of both, but I would lean more towards probably the team that's been the 4-game losers, I think, maybe than the winners, just because we haven't seen them be able to do it long enough to say, yes, they are the 2-0 team, or the team that's going to go, get to 9-5 before they go to Tennessee, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's totally fair, right? Like it makes sense to say, hey, I'm going to go with what I've seen more, and you've seen the other one 4 times, and you've seen this one twice. So and they have to earn the right to be called this team that I'm saying that they are. And you're right. I mean, they could completely go away from the run this week, run the ball 15 times, and throw for 300 yards and lose the game. Like, we don't know for sure, but maybe that's a little bit of me trying to speak into existence.
No, you're right. The more of the 49ers, this team is built to run the ball. Their offensive line is at its best when they kind of get themselves in the groove with the running game before they have to really deal with the pass. Um, if they can keep the ball on the ground, and we're going to get to why I think they're doing a better job of that here on this next question. Let's just jump into it real quick. So why are we seeing so much? Where's this current success coming from? Is it a product of a shift in philosophy from Shanahan? Is it a product of having Kittle back? Is it because they're just getting a mix of the right opponents at this point over the last 4 weeks? Kind of what is it that's giving us this resurgence over the last month?
Yeah, I think it's a perfect recipe of all things. And I think that Shanahan has the people in place that he trusts, right? He clearly hasn't trusted Sermon to this point. Wilson being back, regardless of how good he is, he trusts Wilson. He trusts Debo. He trusts Kittle to help set the edge. So once he has the players in place that he trusts, then he's going to do what he feels like he needs to do. Maybe he didn't even trust Trey Lance a lot, and that's why we saw the game plan we saw. Doesn't make it right. I don't think it was the right game plan at all, but maybe that's a lack of trust on his part. So, for me, I think having the players in that he trusts is a big reason why we're seeing it. But also, if I'm going to throw him out there and air him out to dry when things aren't going right, then when they are going right, I got to give him a little credit, right? The mentality in coming into that Rams game, and this is what impressed me the most, is that he said, we are going to run the ball 40 times. It wasn't, hey, we're going to try to run. We may run. No, that was the mindset they had. Now, whether they got there or not, that's a different story. But you had a mindset to come into that Rams game and play bully ball. And no matter what front you saw, no matter what the defense showed you, no matter how effective or ineffective it was, come hell or high water, you were going to make that happen. And that mentality right there is all that I've been looking for. It feels like a whole different team. You had Steve Young talk about the lack of dogs on the team and whatever. Man, I feel like the dogs are starting to come out of these guys, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely, deciding that we're going to build a team philosophy this week, that we're going to get out there and we're going to get 40 carries, and it's going to have to permeate throughout the whole group. I think we've seen that happen because you've seen the defense, I think, be a little bit, they're really popping people these last couple of weeks. That could be partly from the, kind of the setup there. We're going to be more physical on offense. The defense is getting a little bit more physical. The defense also isn't on the field quite so much, so that's helping them out as well. And I just think, getting back to what they're good at has been the key here throughout this process, throughout this win streak that they've been on. It's just been a huge. I don't know if I'd say the philosophy's really changed from Shanahan, other than just kind of getting to one philosophy instead of being all over the board. And then I think the other one, when you say, is it a product of having a healthy Kittle? I think it's more than just a healthy Kittle. I think that goes beyond Kittle. When you look at what they've done schematically over the last 2 weeks, I think it goes beyond just Kittle, because they've done a lot of different things. And without jumping into it, let's just jump into the next question, actually, so I don't give away, because I think that kind of leads into what I'm thinking here as far as who is the most important 49er at this moment.
Yeah, why don't you take it, since you were riffing anyways?
Yeah, I think the thing here is that most folks are going to say it's going to be Deebo Samuel, because what you've done, what they've seen happen over the last couple of weeks, because Deebo's been giving them that explosive element. I think maybe what partly helped unlock that out of Kyle Shanahan was the return of Jeff Wilson Jr. and his ability to not only play halfback but play fullback, and he's kind of multidimensional. And I think that kind of, because there was no reason for them not to be doing this earlier, especially with guys like, because Juszczyk's been out there. The one guy who wasn't around was Jeff Wilson, and his understanding of the offense, his ability to play multiple positions, because there's no other halfback on their team that can do what he's doing.
Yeah, no, that's actually really, really good because most important doesn't necessarily mean the best player. On the surface, I would have to say Debo just because he's done so much, and really, I'm going to go back to even 2019 into 2020. I really felt like that offense was completely unlocked when Debo played because they were able to do so many things with him. Back then it was the jet sweeps and those types of things, the end arounds, what have you. This year, it's more lining him up out of the backfield and doing those things. But I can't argue with Jeff Wilson. Bay Area baller throws out Ayuk.
Yeah.
The resurgence has also come with Ayuk playing really well. So,
Mhm.
you know, I gotta. I don't know what the right answer is, but I really like both of your answers a lot for sure because I think that Debo is going to do Debo things, and he is arguably the best player, especially on offense right now. But I mean, he was doing those things and they still weren't winning. So what is the difference? Well, the difference is an Ayuk resurgence. The difference is Jeff Wilson playing. So I got to lean towards one of you guys on this one and say that you guys probably take the cake with this.
Okay. And the other thing too, and this goes back to our other question, right? When you look at what's been the biggest difference, and they haven't turned the ball over the last 2 weeks, they haven't dropped the ball the last couple of weeks. That's, I think, something that goes under the radar so much. Is that I understand that Debo's having a great year, or even up until this point, he was having a really good year, but he had some really big drops that put them behind the chains at times, and they haven't done that. That's part of the reason that they've been able to go out and get these 10 play drives, these 90, back to back weeks going 90 yards on their first drive. They didn't score a touchdown this last week, but they did the first one. And so the ability to do that only happens if you're not making mistakes. And fortunately for the 49ers, they haven't had the drops. They haven't had, the fumble. They were still able to jump on top of that. They got some breaks against Jacksonville on that opening drive. So there's just so many different things that are playing into it. And even like Gav says, Jimmy G, yeah, Garoppolo is to a point, but I think Garoppolo's improvement comes along with his receivers not dropping the ball.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just that. I mean, they're playing sound all the way around. I mean, how many penalties did they have in so many of those games? In last game, I think they had one accepted penalty. They technically had two, but it was an offsetting penalty along with two Jags penalties in one play. So if I remember correctly, it was only one accepted penalty that I can think of, and that was a pass interference when the game was well out of hand.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's only one. And, against the Rams, they had 9 penalties for 53 yards, but those turnovers early on, I think, kind of buffered them a little bit from that. Plus, their
Yeah.
offense did a pretty good job, even though they had some penalties. There was a penalty on their second drive that would have kind of knocked them back a little bit. They were still able to pick up the first down. So, they've just been really playing well. And if they can continue on this trajectory that they've of playing at this level, they're going to be a really tough team going out. And real quick before we jump on to our next question, let's take a look at this one from Piner. He asks, how deep of playoff, how deep can our playoff run be at our highest peak with this team? What are your thoughts on that?
Pinor, I mean, this is the craziest season in the NFL that I can remember in a long time. Like normally at this point, you've got two or three real contenders that have like rise to the top. And that doesn't mean that they ultimately win. But there's like two teams that you say, hey, these are like the kings of the NFL. And there's a couple people right here that may contend, and then everybody's terrible. Right now, those teams don't exist. Tampa is getting beat by a Washington team. You just had the Titans lose to the Texans. You've had, every team you had the Rams lose to the 49ers. The Seahawks have found zero footing. The Carolina Panthers beat the tar out of Arizona after they beat, there's just that team doesn't exist right now. And so reality is, this team could win a Super Bowl if they're at their best and things go right. I'm not saying they will do that, but I think that's a realistic possibility once they get into the dance because none of these teams are complete and a lot of these teams are vulnerable right now. The Packers have a ton of injuries. Woods is out now for the Rams. The 49ers, really outside of Verrett, they're getting Ford back. They just got Wilson back. It sounds like Mitchell and Greenlaw are going to be back. They're relatively healthy at this point. So things are starting to fall the 49ers' way right now. So, realistically, this team could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, you know, I don't think you're that far off when you look at the team because the 49ers have played the top teams in the NFC already. They were they played right there with the Packers, and we hear a lot of talk about how the 49ers can't come back if they're behind. Well, they came back from 17-0 down to a Packer team that's I think the second best team in the conference right now as far as records are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
They did a very good job against Arizona the first time around. Uh, I think that there was a letdown for sure the second time, but I think the 49ers could probably do okay if they have to go. I think it might actually play in their favor if at some point they have to go to Arizona as far as one of their road games if they get to the playoffs because that's just a short trip because otherwise they're going to be on the road the entire time because they're not going to win the division. And it's really, beyond that, are they a Super Bowl team? Can they get to the Super Bowl? If everything absolutely falls their way, possibly, right? That means that everything has to go right. But I think that they have the ability to, if they can just do what they've been doing, they're going to be a playoff team, and they're probably going to have it wrapped up before they even go. They might be down in LA week 17 playing for the fifth spot in the playoffs, quite frankly.
Or resting because they know they're not going to get a bye, and just saying, hey, we'll take the seventh, whatever that is, like we'll take it. We're in, we're good, let's rest. Who knows what they decide to do? But just being honest, if you look at the NFC right now, let's say the 49ers do come out and they beat the Vikings. The 49ers might be the scariest of all the teams there, right? And you switch over to the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs, much like the 49ers, looked really bad early on, but now they're starting to catch their stride, and everybody knows how good and how explosive that offense is. They're starting to run the ball a little bit. They might be the scariest team all of a sudden in the AFC. So I'm not saying the best team, but the one team that you don't want to play, there's always one of those teams going into the playoffs. It's possible right now or after this week, it could be the 49ers and Chiefs.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then I know we were just talking about the most, important 49ers. We didn't bring, this is a name we didn't bring up. We both stuck on the offensive side of the ball, but Gav asked, is Bosa in contention for comeback player of the year? He's one of those guys who you kind of had to put him in there as one of the most important players on the 49ers because he is their best person, their best player as far as the pass rush goes. Do you think he's definitely going to be in contention as far as I'm concerned for comeback player of the year? Do you think he's going to win it?
I think it's going to be hard to unseat Dak Prescott, right? Quarterbacks tend to win all awards, anything of significance. And, it's to me, it's as much about a popularity contest as anything else. The guy's very popular. He's kind of one of the faces of the league, being that he plays for America's team and he's the quarterback, what have you. So I think it's probably going to be Dak, but Bosa definitely needs some consideration for sure.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I think it's a situation where he's going to come up short to Dak Prescott if the Cowboys continue to win, they win the NFC East and so on. It's probably going to go there because these voting things always tend to lead towards quarterbacks. So I think he's in contention. I don't think he's going to win it though, especially if Dallas continues to play well and Prescott continues to play well. Real quick before we jump on, one other thing I do want to bring this a comment up from Fighter. He says, "Okay, I see you, Jack. But I think he'd say we go to the Super Bowl if we just had Mac later in the playoffs." LOL. That's a good one. And I know where he's going with that because I'm a big Mac Jones guy and I've been a Mac Jones guy for a long time. But quite frankly, I would say no to that. I don't think the 49ers would go to the Super Bowl with Mac Jones. I don't think they're good. For the same reason I don't think they would have gone to the Super Bowl this year if it had been Trey Lance playing quarterback. I don't see them. Rookie quarterbacks don't go to the Super Bowl. They haven't done it. I don't think Mac Jones is going to do it. And quite frankly, I don't think the 49ers are going to do it either. And I said that before the year because it's very hard for a guy that's not a Hall of Fame quarterback to lose their first trip to the Super Bowl and then get back. So while Jimmy Garoppolo is good, and I just don't see them getting to the Super Bowl with him as the quarterback because of that loss originally. I've been saying that for a while too.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Since I brought up Jimmy Garoppolo, everybody's favorite quarterback, who's better, 2019 Jimmy or 2021 Jimmy? Who's doing it better?
Okay, so I'm going to throw out some stats first and then give you my opinion on it. So 2019 Jimmy had 3,978 yards. 2021 Jimmy, if I were to amortize his statistics and put him over a 16 game season, would throw for 3,754, so less yards. 2019 Jimmy had 28 touchdowns. 2021 Jimmy in a 16 game season, 27. 2019 Jimmy had 18 total turnovers. 2021 in a 16 game season would have 14 turnovers. So here's what I'll say. One of the things that I had talked about during the offseason is that I felt like Alex Smith, if he was on the 2019 Niners, if we go 2012 Alex Smith, that they would have won the Super Bowl, because what they needed at that time was a game manager, like a true game manager. Jimmy G's skill set tells you game manager, but his mentality tells you gunslinger sometimes. So that I thought was a big reason why they wouldn't win a Super Bowl with Jimmy. What I will say is, if Jimmy can do what Jimmy's doing now the last couple weeks, then that Jimmy for sure is better than 2019 Jimmy. He's a little bit more mobile than 2019 Jimmy. He is a little bit less prone to making mistakes. And quite frankly, he is throwing the ball at least a little bit, not a lot, but he's pushing it a little bit more downfield, which I like to see. So I would say just the eye test tells me that this Jimmy is slightly better, even if the numbers wouldn't say that, because I think that he's playing a little less reckless. And I think that's exactly what this team needs right now.
Okay. Yeah, and it's a little bit different. I looked at the numbers myself, and I didn't look at them over the course of the season. I kind of compared his current 4-game hot streak to the 4-game streak that he put together in 2019, and the 2019 version of him was better during that point. The difference when you look at your numbers, like that you put, I think the difference is they're not throwing the ball quite as much. His attempts are down slightly. He's about an attempt and a half below where he was in 2019. So that's partly why he's not throwing for the same yardage, because his yards per attempt is actually almost the same. He was like 8.3, I think, or 8.4 in 2019. He was at 8.4. He's at 8.3 now. So I mean, he's all around right in that same area. Even his yards per completion. His numbers are just down a little bit because he's not getting quite as many throws, and that's okay because the team's winning. I think that this Garoppolo and 2019 Garoppolo are pretty much, I would go with 19, but I think these guys are pretty much the same guy. He's playing pretty much, 2019 Jimmy is pretty much a clone of 2021 Jimmy. I think we're seeing a guy who we talked about who he was to be coming in. We kind of know who Garoppolo is. Everybody should know, have a pretty good idea. I think his struggles in 2020 because of the leg injury made people feel like he was a worse quarterback than he is, but he's a mediocre, middle of the road, top 15, top 10, 12. He's not top. He's not better than 10, but he's in the 10 to, I'd say he's in the 10 to 16, 17 range. Maybe 11.
Yeah.
Right in that ballpark.
Yeah. I want to look up something, and I didn't look this up, but I got to imagine he took a lot of sacks in 2019. If I remember correctly, it was like 36 sacks. I don't know how many he's taken this year, but I feel like he's avoiding a lot more sacks, and that's important to me as well.
He is. His sack rate he was sacked 7% of the time in 2019. That's down to 5.9. He's really moving better, I think, than he was in 19. That was something that we talked about even early in the season. It seemed like he was moving around a little bit better at times. So his sack percentage is a little bit better. There's a lot of good things. There's a lot of things to like about him. His QBR. I don't like the QBR stat, to be honest with you. That's the deal that they came up with at ESPN. I don't like that stat because I feel like if your team's winning, you get a higher QBR regardless of how well you're playing. It seems to kind of usually play out that way because his best QBR, those best numbers have been when the team's winning those games from start to finish. I mean, but he's played really well, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens coming up this week against Minnesota, because this is a tough opponent they're going to be facing.
Yeah, for sure it is.
We'll get to that one here in a minute, but while we're talking about Garoppolo, before everybody tunes out, because I know they don't like to talk about him, but is Garoppolo going to be back in 2022?
Okay. Hopefully Varun is still in here because he asked the question in the chat and we had to keep it tight-lipped because we're going to talk about it anyways. But I got to say no. I don't think so. I think anything short of winning a Super Bowl, he's not coming back. And I don't think the team's winning a Super Bowl. Like the odds are not in your favor for any team to be the winner, right? So for me, I have to say he's not coming back, but I'm also not going to completely write off the possibility of him being here. I feel like the moment that I was wrong about who started week one, that all bets were out the window as far as what my thoughts and perspectives on this topic were. So I mean, at this point, I can't say for sure, but if I had to lay money down, I'm putting it on him not being there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there. I think that I don't think he's going to be back. I think there's, like you said, I think there's some ways that you could see him coming back. As far as, I don't think there was any news about him maybe being the starter in 2022 as well. I don't think that was anything new. What we heard today from Kyle Shanahan, it's pretty much what he said after the draft. When they drafted Trey Lance, he came out and said, Garoppolo's our starting quarterback. It's going to be really hard for a rookie to come in and do the things that Jimmy does if Jimmy's playing on his A game. I don't think that, and that's kind of what he said today. He referenced that. I don't think he comes back unless this team gets to the Super Bowl. And the only reason I even make that comment is because that's kind of what's been said. The only comment that's been made from the 49ers to make you think that he's going to be back in 2022 was Jed York saying that we would keep him. We have the money to keep him for 2 years but he couches that by saying if he wins a Super Bowl and is playing at an MVP caliber, level. So if this team can get to a Super Bowl, then all bets are off. But if they don't get to a Super Bowl, I think we see a scenario where they move on from Garoppolo, much like Kansas City did with going into from in 2016, 27, whatever year it was that they moved over to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the case because this team, the reason they kept Jimmy was because they thought that they could win a Super Bowl. So if you don't win a Super Bowl, then you've kind of had your chances, right? Like it's time to move on. And quite frankly, it's not just Jimmy. There's going to be a lot of guys that are not going to be on this team next year for one reason or another. So the whole run it back thing is kind of ran its course at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I don't think he'll be back. We'll see. Crazier things that happen. I mean, when you start to look at the numbers, there are some ways that they could possibly do it. Maybe they like him so much they extend him for a year.
Jack, don't.
Get his salary cap down, and then you can maybe kick in a couple of void years at the end because you really like the guy. Who knows? Or maybe they trade Trey Lance and they get a couple first rounds back and they go out and get the top quarterback that they need. Who knows? I mean, there's.
Ray, yeah, thanks, Ray. Thank you, Ray. But
no,
I wanted to reach to the screen and just.
So that's why this works because you can't get me if we were doing this on radio in the same room, I probably would be getting choked out right now.
It's like the Bart Simpson and Homer Simpson just.
Yeah. No, that was me doing a QAnon bit right there because that's about the way I think that works out. So no, I just don't think that he's going to be back. I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's been hammered a lot more than he should be. But at the same time, I just don't think he comes back next year. The salary cap doesn't really work in his favor at his number. Yeah. But this week, I mentioned it kind of a little bit earlier. This is going to be an interesting game for the 49ers. It's going to be a tough one. What do you think the 49ers, before we get into our actual prediction, what do you think the 49ers need to do in order to win this week?
Well, let me set it up a little bit because this game really is very important, right? Like very important. And this, if nothing else, I feel like one way or another, we just talked about who are the real 49ers. Would they please stand up? That was like the first topic we had. I think that after this game, we're going to know who the real 49ers are because this is really going to be as close to a playoff atmosphere that you could probably get without it actually being that way. With this many games left in the season, both of these teams are fighting for a playoff spot. Both of these teams know each other well, if nothing else, from a schematic standpoint. And so I just feel like they're going to go out there and leave it all out on the field and fight for their lives in this game. So, however, the 49ers come out of this one way or another, I feel like we're going to know exactly who they are. And that's exciting to me. Like, I want to know the answer to who this team is. So, as far as that goes, they have to be the same team that they've been the last 2 weeks. They have to have that mentality. We're going to run the ball 40 times. They don't have to run it 40 times, but that has to be the mentality. They have to come out and play a little bit of bully ball. They have to control the clock the way they have. And that way you can help limit the turnovers. You can give your defense a rest, and you can own the line of scrimmage. So to me, that is the biggest key to this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really tough game for Garoppolo. This is going to be the third time now that he's played against Mike Zimmer-led defense. He's 1-1 in the first two. His numbers have not been good in those two contests. He's completed 50% of his passes, and he's thrown 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions in 2 games now against Vikings in his career. I think we could see some of that come back this week because the Vikings have a really good linebacking core. That's usually where Jimmy wants to get the ball. The way that I think they beat them is by keeping the running game up, because that threat of the running game is going to be what allows them to pull those linebackers up for Garoppolo to work the middle of the field like he wants to. It sounds to me, from what I'm hearing, that Minnesota is dealing with a lot of they're losing some of their guys along the front, and that's going to help out the 49ers, because really their inability to stop the 49ers just with their down linemen is going to be what's going to force those second level players, the linebackers and safeties, to have to come up closer to the line of scrimmage and allow them to then hit them behind them with some of those passes. So I think, from an offensive standpoint, they need to keep running the ball and really force Minnesota to step up. On the defensive side, they need to get some pressure on the quarterback. If they don't pressure Kirk Cousins, it's going to be a long day for the 49ers. I don't see him making the kind of mistakes that we saw out of Jared Goff. I mean, Matthew Stafford a couple of weeks ago for the Rams. But, I think this week is going to be, like you said, it's going to be this is the litmus test that we've been waiting for. They've got 2 wins under their belts now, a really good team that's played a lot of close games coming into town. Can you get over the hump on this one and then set yourself up for the second half?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it, Jan says it in the chat. I mean, they're going to be without 3 of their 4 starting defensive linemen. That is huge. Like, that's a huge advantage for the 49ers. And, I think that could be the difference in this game for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be a tough one. When you look at this game, what do you think, as far as a prediction, if you're going to put some money down, what is your prediction here?
I got to go with the Niners in this one, and here's the reason why. The Vikings have been a completely different team on the road that they have been at home. If you look at on the road, they're giving up an average of 140 yards rushing per game. That bodes well for the 49ers. That's with their defensive line intact. So now that it's completely out of tact, I think that is going to be even worse for them. And then they also give up nearly 29 points per game, to whereas at home they give up just over 19. So they're a completely different team on the road, and that bodes well for the 49ers. I think that both these teams are not going to have problems putting up points on each other. Obviously, we know that the Vikings have a very explosive offense. Heck, they could control the ball if they really wanted to run the heck out of it as well, because they've got Dalvin Cook, and the 49ers can be ran on. So I am going to go 30-27 49ers.
Okay. And I'm going to be close with you there. I agree on the 27 for Minnesota. I'm going to go a little bit closer, though. I'm going to say 49ers win this one 28-27.
Oh, okay. Okay. You had me scared there. I was like, there's not a lot of wiggle room. Are you going to go with them to lose here? What's going on?
Yeah, no, I think that they have the ability to to win this game. I'm going to go with them to win, just based off what we've seen them do the last couple of weeks. I think they're going to be able to keep that going. 28-27. That's right about in the ballpark of what Minnesota's given up on the road, and right about in the ballpark of what they've scored has been right around that area. Their 2 losses on the road, the teams that they've lost to on the road have been pretty good teams for the most part. The Ravens are really good. Cincinnati, Arizona, both playoff teams. And then the teams that they've beaten, Carolina, not a playoff team, and they were able to get over the hump on the Chargers, who are a pretty decent team of their own right. So it's going to be a tough game for the 49ers. It's going to be tight right down to the end, like kind of like the old school 49er Vikings games of the past were.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we got a good game on our hands for sure. Again, I'm very excited to see where this team stands because this is a good litmus test.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you can help me out with this one. It says, Jack, you see what happened when they say about the Packers not have their best defense. I'm not sure what they're asking me on that one.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe he's talking about the Vikings winning last week, but they didn't have their best defense, so I don't know.
It could have been. I mean, I don't know. I just think the Vikings are a pretty darn good team. They've played a pretty tough schedule so far. I think it's been close. So I would like to see more of what Ronnie puts on the board here. 31-17 49ers would be a much more kind game for all of us because we're not going to be quite so nervous on this Thanksgiving. We can relax and have our turkey sandwich and in peace. Cool. You have anything else that you wanted to go as far as the 49ers go?
No, definitely not. I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody who tuned in tonight. We appreciate you guys. Hopefully everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Jack, actually, let me ask you this. This was something I was asking on my show last night. What is your favorite side dish?
I was going to ask you the same thing anyway, before we head off. So for me, shoot, it's funny because we were just talking about this the other day. I'm the guy who gets a plate, and I pretty much have everything on my plate, everything that's offered, gravy over the top of everything, other than my sweet potatoes, which are my can't eat my yams with that I make with a bunch of marshmallows on top and stuff like that. That's about the only thing that doesn't get the gravy treatment. But I think that would have to be my favorite side dish, is my sweet potatoes that I make. It's just one of those things. They're it's just nothing but sugar and brown sugar and syrup, Caro syrup. I mean, yeah, I just finished making them, and I had to stop myself from continually getting the sauce and eating the sauce because I was like, you're not going to have enough sauce here when you actually go to make them. Put the tray out tomorrow.
Yeah,
how about yourself?
Listen,
What's yours?
I'm with you. That's my favorite. In fact, my wife just made them right for everybody, and then she made a separate one that I can have for the rest of the week for myself because I love them so much. With it has to have the marshmallows on top, though. If you don't do the marshmallows on top, you're not doing it right. So I like that you said marshmallows on top. I'm 100% with you. Sweet potatoes is absolutely it.
Yeah, no, you've got to have those marshmallows on top, and so when you scoop it up, it's like almost like you're scooping up a piece of pizza, right? Because you got that the stringiness of the marshmallow coming up with it, and then maybe a little brown right on top. Oh yeah, no, that's it. That's the ticket right there. So get those sweet potatoes ready. Yep, 100%. So, you have any other shows that are going on tonight, or are you done?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go on with Grant here in about 15 over on his channel. So 49ers After Dark. And then, you can catch me on my channel, Last Second Sports. Go ahead and tap in over there. Definitely doing multiple shows a week. But yes, happy Thanksgiving to everybody for sure.
Yeah, just throwing some of those out there right now. Pumpkin pie should only be. Oh, I think we might have to.
Is there a way
that I can ban this user from?
My wife makes a really good pumpkin pie.
Yeah, no, pumpkin pie. If you can get a nice homemade pumpkin pie, those are the best. Or I will say, as far as store-bought pies, really good store-bought pies at Costco. I don't know about out there, but they're really good. And then, thank you for the donation there. I know where to steal potatoes from now. Thanks, Jack. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. And I agree with this one too. If you're going to have your pumpkin pie, though, the whipped cream does not come out of the container. It's got to be freshly made whipped cream. That's really the best.
I have one rebuttal to that. It can't come out of the can, but the Cool Whip is so good. So I agree. That's the better way, but I will definitely settle with some Cool Whip for sure.
You'll take some Cool Whip. All right, there we go. Well, I hope the 49ers can Cool Whip the Vikings on Sunday, and we could all have a good. Yeah, see, sometimes every once in a while I get these like things coming to mind. My kids hate it, by the way. It's just a dad joke thing that you just. I think when you get to be a dad, you get to be a certain age, they just kind of come naturally to you.
It's natural.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I appreciate you all jumping on, and make sure you jump over and check out Jesse's show later on. I think you said you're going on later tonight, right?
After
After
15
Grant?
minutes. Yeah, 15.
Okay.
No, I'm going on with Grant, and then that's it for me tonight. But definitely tap into the channel for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's always good stuff going on over at Last Second Sports. So make sure you're over there. And just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Thank you for hit the comment section, hit that like button. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm thankful. I wrote a little Thanksgiving thing on over at the Press Democrat blog today, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that does this, because without you guys, Jesse and I are here just talking to ourselves, which would be fun, but it's a lot more fun when we have you guys along for the ride. So thanks for joining in, and have a great Thanksgiving, and you have a great Thanksgiving as well, Jesse. And
You
we'll
too,
be back
Jack.
next week. All right.